I am fresh off the plane from India. I mean, I got back on Monday night. It's now Friday, but I wanted to recap for you the entire trip because this is my first time traveling with Galavant Society, our client. And I know if you've been following along on my socials, you've seen what I've been posting and what I was sharing. There are 4 highlights full. So it's like 400 stories frames of my whole experience being there. And I really want to use this episode to recap not only the trip itself, but all the places in which we embedded the brand and what that looked like from a practical standpoint, and maybe some ideas that you can embed in your own business to really pull your branding through to make it mirror the experience that you're giving people on the front end. Greetings and welcome back to the Kiss My Aesthetic podcast. So first and foremost, definitely go back to the episode in which I interviewed Allie. It will have been a couple months old now because we interviewed Allie about her Galavant Society rebrand right after the launch party back in August of last year. And since then, we've been working with Allie ongoing to help create some more hype and brand connection and visual identity between the brand that she has and the trips that people go on. So Galavant Society, the business, hosts trips, international trips, group trips for women in different locations all across the globe all year long. And the trip that I had always kind of had my eyes on and been drooling over was India. Now, I am a pretty well-versed traveler. I've done a lot of solo travel through Europe, through Southeast Asia. I've been to Central America. I went to Costa Rica. I've gone to Cape Town, South Africa, all either with groups or on my own. And I've always wanted to go to India. But there was something about India that felt really intimidating to me. I think, first of all, it's far. Second of all, it's dense. There's a lot of people there. And thirdly, there were no amount of like guides or resources that I was finding online that I felt really was going to give me the breadth of that experience without going with a group. So when Galavant Society had this idea, not even idea, they have a very well formulated India trip. They've hosted it multiple times. And when I was working on building out the website and building out the landing pages, the more I was working on the India content, I was like, man, I really think I really want to go on this trip. I had kind of dropped it to my mom, like, hey, I'm thinking I'm going to go to India with Galavant Society. She said, oh, I want to go. And I said, you know what? Yeah, this actually would be a great trip for us to go on together. So my mom got to come as well. So knowing this and knowing this was going to happen, I think I decided in fall of last year that I wanted to go. The trip was April 14th through the 26th. It was going to be 5 cities in the Golden Triangle. So starting in Delhi, going to Udaipur, Jodhpur, Jaipur, Agra, and then back to Delhi. And this is really kind of like your sampler platter of Northern India. Such a great experience, such a wonderful opportunity, and such a great group of people, which I will get into. But a lot of the reason why I wanted to do this with Galavant Society was to also see and better understand how their trips work. Like, what is the actual experience that they're selling? What is the benefit of traveling with this group instead of working with them on like a private Galavant, a one-to-one kind of plan your trip type deal? And what are those opportunities for us to really embed the branding? So if you remember a few months ago in January, I was out in Chicago for a few different reasons with Dental Hygiene Nation. I was there to visit FRG in Milwaukee. And then I also squeezed in a session with Galavant Society. And when I was with Galavant Society, we mapped out this client touchpoint map. So go back to that episode as well, because the client touchpoint map will be really helpful in understanding this. But what we tried to create for each trip was what are the brand touch points where we can really get the most amount of information across beautifully, visually, and in a compelling way that felt not overwhelming, but felt really bespoke and really well taken care of. And one of the first instances where people are really getting to interact with that branding, besides being a customer that's like a looky-loo on the website and putting in your information and saying, hey, I'm interested in this trip, was 2 weeks before we left, we sent everyone out this travel magazine. And this thing is my baby. This is like my pride and joy. And what we did is we took the information of the trip and condensed it down to be almost editorialized to showcase the itinerary and some of this like key information that you would need to know before you go. So your packing lists, your food, cuisine, customs, cultures, tipping, how to stay healthy while you're there. All this information that was existing in like a giant, like 85-page printout was now in this glossy, fabulous looking magazine. And to get that delivered ahead of your trip, so we left on the 14th, so this was coming to everybody like end of March, beginning of April, was so satisfying because not only is the branding like big and bold and colorful and wonderful, but the information, the way that I looked at this magazine every single day of the trip to be like, okay, we're going where and what's the information and what's the history and what's the background. Yes, we have it like mirrored on the digital app, which was so handy, the app that Galavant Society uses for the trips, but to have an actual physical print magazine, so satisfying. So as soon as we got to Delhi, we checked into our hotel, had a nice, like relaxing day, went and got a massage. I, of course, was like taking photos and videos of the magazine everywhere. And what Ali and Linda did so wonderfully is had welcome bags ready for everyone. So in the welcome bag, which they sourced locally through their teams in India, there were also like extra toiletries and an extra scarf and little like trinkets and things that could get you, through the trip. And those bags, having an extra bag was so helpful because you definitely needed it to carry all of the trinkets and the things that we got on the trip. So that was already like ready to go in our rooms. Then having welcome drinks on the patio to get to know the other women. And I think one of the things that intimidated me about this style of group trip was how are we going to get along with everybody? Like, here's people from all over the world, different backgrounds, different jobs, different ages. How are we all going to travel together nicely for the next 14 days? And again, credit to Galavant Society where it's due. They did a really great job of attracting awesome people. And it was really cool to see immediately like people hit it off with each other and also be excited to be there. So that was the first thing kind of as we started to get there was your opportunity to meet everyone and get to know a little bit about their background and chit chat and look forward to what was to come. The next day was a really important kind of like welcome dinner after our sightseeing and our tours of Delhi, Old Delhi, and kind of New Delhi, which was really exciting. And the welcome dinner gave us the opportunity to gift everyone the scarves. So for every Galavant Society trip, we have been designing custom silk scarves with imagery and icons and symbols that represent that trip. And this has kind of been born out of a few different things. So when we first started working with Ali, she actually came to us for help with merch. And I kind of pushed back and said, are you sure you want to own a merch business? Because it's great that you want to have a sweat set. It's great that you want to have, baseball caps and tote bags and all of these products. But who's running all of that and who's shipping all of that and managing all of that when you're traveling? Because that's an entirely secondary business to the business that you're already running. And my question back to her was like, do you really want to have a merch brand or do you want people to be able to wear a representation of your company and your values? Like, do you want people to have things that reflect that back to you? And so we kind of landed on this idea of making these custom silk scarves. I had done one for my 30th birthday years prior, and finding ways to add that important brand imagery into the scarf. So the first ones that we did were an Egypt and Jordan scarf, and then we did the India scarf. And on there, we're adding, like sketches of the Taj Mahal and tigers and different arches and caning and patterns and things that looked like, from my experience, what I saw of the pictures of India. And in the center, we kind of had this female goddess, Saraswati. And Saraswati is the goddess of curiosity and wisdom and learning and basically all of the things that were going to be happening on this trip. So knowing that all of this was on the scarf, so smart to not put that in the welcome bag, but to save it for the welcome dinner, which was amazing, which gave us the chance to really do this unveiling and explanation. So we got to the welcome dinner and everybody had, passed around this beautiful, we had these almost like velvet texture envelopes made. So another pouch, which is always helpful. And inside of it was the scarf. And as each person is kind of unloading it and unwrapping it, we're able to explain the imagery and what that means for the scarf. The scarf also ended up as kind of the ultimate accessory of the trip. People tying it to their hats, wearing it around their neck, tie it to their bag, becomes this thing to kind of showcase that we're all part of one group. Like if you think to kind of Survivor and when people are wearing like the buffs for their team, it kind of felt like we were a team. Like it felt like we all had this thing in common and we could all share it with each other. So the scarves, the magazine and the scarf being those two first brand touch points right out the gate. Our first few days in Delhi were incredible. I think there's something about being in a place that feels so different from home that kind of has all of your senses on high alert. And I got so much value out of seeing that. And we piled all into our nice air conditioned tour bus with our tour guide, Sandeep, who was incredible. And we're able to go hit some of those main sites right away. So the first one we went to was Humayun's tomb. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful place. Fabulous tour. Oh, before that, we even did Qutub Minar. So we did Qutub Minar the first day, and then we're able to hit a few other stops. Then the next day, Humayun's tomb, which was beautiful and fabulous. And one of the things that I made a conscious effort to do during this trip was take pictures of anything that inspired me. Because this trip was both a personal trip and a work trip because I'm there on behalf of my client, but I'm also there on behalf of myself. Was I needed to kind of feel that creative spark again. I think I was really stuck in my routine for the first 3 months of the year. And knowing that I had this big trip on the calendar was really motivating. But I knew that when I got there, I wanted to collect as much visual inspiration as I possibly could. Because I think there is a phenomenon happening now where we get so stuck in seeing what we've always seen. And our algorithms are so that we're not getting exposed to a wide variety of ideas or historical ideas, and everything starts to feel like a regurgitation of itself. And add into that AI, right, which is literally regurgitation of what already exists. It was so useful to go take pictures of patterns and textures and architecture and textiles and some of this architecture that's been around for centuries, and looking at the intricacy of the details and the patterns and the carvings and the marbles and how that all starts to come together, because all of that is ultimate craftsmanship, ultimate design. So my goal was really like, where are those little details? Where are those little opportunities where I can capture what I'm seeing so that I can reference it later in a project? So I can come back to this as this archive that I've curated of things that I like, that are drawn, my eye is drawn to better serve me in my work. The next best thing that I did, which was something that came out of the welcome bag, which I knew was a souvenir I wanted to get from the jump, was a notebook and my watercolor set. So I brought a watercolor set that I actually bought when I was in Chicago at the museum. It's by this brand called Grabby. And if you're on TikTok, you're probably getting the ads for it by now. But it's a tiny, like condensed watercolor set that has all of the paint palettes that kind of like collapse into each other. They like fan out, but you can collapse them into each other. And then it comes with like a water pen. So you can fill the pen with water, and then you've got this watercolor set to use. And each day that we would go to a different sightseeing location, I'd try to take my pen and sketch something. So sketch a doorway or a facade or a detail of something, or even just like greenery. Like we found this beautiful banyan tree and I was like, I'm going to draw this. And drawing, if you're even not someone who considers yourself good at drawing, is such a wonderful way to connect your brain to what you're actually seeing. And although it is like a bit of a flex, I guess, because I do have this as a skill set and it is something that I'm trying to practice more of with my drawing classes and just getting out and like drawing things when I'm at home. But when you travel, like looking at something and looking at a dome or looking at a facade and trying to figure out, okay, how does my brain see these shapes? How do I translate these shapes onto paper? And knowing that I have a limited amount of time, how do I get more confidence in my mark making? Because I was drawing in pen, like straight with pen, no pencils, no like under sketching, no templatizing, nothing. So how do I look at this and try to compellingly capture it in pen in this notebook? And it was the best thing I think that I did the whole trip, was to have something that became then a memento that wasn't just a strike off, but like it was a whole book that chronicles where we went, how long we were there, what I drew, what was interesting to me of those places. Because of course I have the iPhone photos to back it up. Of course I've got thousands of photos and videos in my phone, but drawing it was chef's kiss, like so much fun. It also, I think, kept me really engaged the material and kept me really engaged to what I was learning, because I was able to kind of use those right brain, left brain, those connections to see something, hear something, and make something all at the same time. So if you're a creative person that's feeling stuck and you're like, you know what, I really need to like get on my A game and get back in it, drawing, pen to paper, would recommend. And then basically because I had the watercolor kit, I could get back on the bus and bust out my watercolors and start like kind of watercoloring it in on the bus, which was so much fun. So that was Delhi. Another like crazy experience was our rickshaw ride through Chandi Chowk, which was so crazy because you're in this area where it's like the densest market of Delhi. And you're riding this rickshaw through these teeny tiny alleyways and streets that are just storefront, 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 storefront. And the contrast between these insanely detailed, beautiful, intricate saris that are for sale. And then to look up and see the absolute mess of cables and wires that would send any like, you know, contractor here in the US would send them into an absolute coma, and somehow it all works was so cool, like so much fun. There's a video on my Instagram of this, of our ride on the rickshaws, which was incredible. The other thing that really stood out to me from our time in Delhi is learning just how many people live in Delhi. 25 million people live in Delhi, and the amount of different religions that are in that area. I'm not a particularly religious person. Actually, I'm not a religious person at all. But seeing how all of these different groups kind of exist in the same space, and visiting the Sikh temple where it didn't matter what religion you were, how much money you had or didn't have, where you came from, no matter what, you could get 2 meals a day served to you in this temple for free was something I'm never going to forget. There was a really beautiful moment where someone had donated a ton of food, and the hosts of this temple basically, I think priest would be the right name, but I don't want to missay it there, came over to bless the food and bless the donation that came from this family. And their blessing essentially said, bless these people and bless them to continue to make more money so they can continue to make more donations. And it was such a great reminder of like, we can make an impact that is proportionate to what we can create for ourselves, and how it wasn't just blessing the fact that they had donated, it was blessing them to continue to be successful so that they could provide more blessings. And I really loved that message. That really resonated with me. And also just seeing so many people prepare so much food for people that were going to be eating it for free was really beautiful. As someone who like loves to cook and loves to host, the amount of roti and the amount of dal that they were making, like in the quantities like you can't even imagine, was really, really, really interesting. But in this blessing, they blessed like a cup of water, and they then took that cup of water and poured that water into all the dishes that they were cooking that day. So essentially, the blessing was now living in all of the food that was being served to everyone, which the symbolism of that was beautiful and like very humbling and very wonderful. So being able to see all these different religions, all these different styles and architecture kind of all mishmash into one place was really exhilarating and also very, I guess, like humbling. I think we forget when we're living at home and you're just in your routine and in your schedule and kind of going to the same places and seeing the same people, you forget how many people exist in the world. And I think that sums up Delhi for me. From Delhi, we went to Udaipur, which is so stunning and so like surreal because we got to stay at this beautiful hotel, Taj Lake Palace, which just looks like it's floating in the middle of a lake. So on Lake Pichola, there is this gorgeous, it almost has kind of it's funny when you're in there because it has almost like a Palm Springs kind of feel to it. It's like a very white building with a lot of bougainvillea and fountains, and it has such a gorgeous aesthetic. But I was there realizing when I was standing there with Ali, I was like, oh, this is what you wanted Galavant Society to look like. It's like this maximal, detailed, patterned, but also heritage, but also a little bit 1960s. It's like was a favorite place of Jackie O. There's something really stunning about that location. And I think it really clicked in. I was like, aha. I was like, this is what we were going for. We just didn't know it being in Udaipur. The other incredible thing about that was every time you go to and from the hotel, you're on a boat ride. So you're doing this little skipper ride back and forth, which just makes it feel so White Lotus coated, which is very fun, very magical. And Udaipur was a really great opportunity for us to get to know each other even more as a group because the breakfast area was very intimate and small. You got to kind of mix and match and talk to different people. And I love talking to people. I'm definitely like a natural extrovert. So it was really cool to get to know, what's your travel story? What's your background? How did you find out about Galavant Society? What drew you to this? Have you traveled with them before? Because of course my business brain clicks on and I'm garnering all those insights for later use. The other standout moment from Udaipur, we got to do a cooking class at a private home, which was so much fun to actually be in someone's home, have them host us, teach us. She sent us all the recipes afterwards, and also got a really great kind of like family style dinner where we got to ask all kinds of questions about different customs and traditions. We learned all about Indian weddings. We learned about arranged marriages, which was fascinating. And it was just this big communal feeling. Like it just had this really great, which you get on a lot of group trips, but there's something fun about traveling with people that you just met where kind of anything goes and they can kind of meet that version of you that you're now at. They don't have all this background of like who you were in high school or who your friends are or like who you associate with. Like it's a real like level playing field. And I think I really appreciated that about that dinner specifically. Udaipur, so great, so lovely. And then we were immediately on to Jodhpur, which is a totally different vibe shift. This is nicknamed the Blue City. We went to so many different heritage walks. We did different forts. We did royal palaces, same in Udaipur as well. And again, I'm just taking pictures like a mad woman. I took so many photos and videos of details of architecture, patterns, textiles. Honestly, like there's so many photos on my phone that I haven't even shared on social media because I'm keeping them for me. But people, and obviously not trying to take pictures of people in a way that made them feel uncomfortable, but taking, I mean, just kind of candids of women in these beautiful saris and the color combinations, or the tuk-tuks, or just kind of like facts of life that felt so different from here and keeping those again as like visual reference to keep coming back to. The other thing I started doing was realizing that each place had its own color palette in a way. So, especially in Jodhpur, when we did the tour of the Red Fort, the museum had this really beautiful exhibition of old paintings and lithographs and drawings and things like this. And the color palette already stood out to me. There's this like beautiful citrine green with this lavender plus a blue plus a really vibrant like marigold orange. And I started kind of collecting photos with similar visual styles into like almost like a mood board, like a 9 grid of the images to show like, oh, this could be like its own brand in itself. So curating all of those and pulling those together, I feel like really inspired me. I had shared it on my stories, like somebody better let me do their brand in this color palette or else. Because now I'm feeling like I want to go back and see, okay, what would this do if it would be translated into a brand? How could I make this into a brand? And how does that color palette then spring off into a different idea? And again, drawing, sketching the whole time as well. So there's a lot of things kind of happening all at once. But really, my purpose of being on this trip was not only support my client and get her content, but to capture like the visual database of examples of how all these elements come together to use them for future projects. Jodhpur was also our first opportunity to really kind of walk through and meander through a neighborhood. It's known as the Blue City because a lot of the residents paint their city in a specific shade of indigo blue to help keep the heat down and to, I think, ward off bugs was another reason. But it becomes this real cool maze of all these buildings that are just bright blue and so visually striking, and took so many pictures of that as well and got to kind of be kind of boots on the ground in that sense. In Jodhpur, we went to a spice market. And as someone that loves to cook, you know, I did some damage there. And then basically made our journey over to Jaipur, the pink city, which if somebody knocked on my door today and said, here's a one-way ticket to Jaipur, it's leaving in an hour, would you go? Yes. This is the city I wish I had more time in. Like, I wish I could have stayed in Jaipur for a week at minimal. Like, there was so much to see. It's so strikingly beautiful. Everything being this like beautiful blush terracotta pink, contrasted against like the silver and the periwinkle color and the whites and the butter yellow. Like, this was everything to me. There was also a ton of opportunity to do shopping, which is really fun. So Galavant Society organizes different experiences throughout the trip. And in Jaipur is where we really got to do a lot of our textiles shopping. We got to do rug shopping, gemstone shopping, like really got to do that, which was so fun. And I could have done so much more damage on that trip, especially in Jaipur. There were some really great dinners as well. Like there's some really wonderful opportunities for us to, again, get closer, get to know each other. The food was incredible. I think I've had every type of curry and dal and tikka masala and paneer that I possibly could think of. And I'm still not sick of it. So absolutely send me back. I would do it in a heartbeat. But Jaipur is one of those cities where I feel like there is so much richness visually. And also something I wanted to just call out about India in general is it's a country where you see extreme wealth and extreme poverty butted up right next to each other. And the other time I've really noticed this was when I was in Cape Town, South Africa, is how closely those two groups coexist and how much it's integrated as part of society. We got to learn deeply about the caste system. We got to learn about different prejudices and things that people are up against. And wealth inequality is something I think in the US we talk about a lot, but you forget how glaring it is when you travel somewhere else. And being able to see that first person, there's again so many photos and videos I feel like I took on my phone that I didn't share because it was something more of like, again, me kind of being like an archivist of like, I want to document this and I want to remember that these two things were right here, of the way that people still get water out of their wells, about how education has impacted women, about how the religious influence has impacted education and pollution, all of these issues kind of coexisting together, not to be overlooked, not to be forgotten about, not to be, but also not to be monetized on and not to be exploited. And I think I was really conscious of that in this trip of I went in with a very specific purpose of like, I would love to just see what India has to offer and find the things that light me up and inspire me. But the point in recording this episode too was to call out that this is why traveling to me is so important, is you realize how many people are in the world existing, how many different diverse experiences we can have as human beings, and how important it is to, even if you do want to travel on the bougier side, to see and to take note of and to have conversation around those disparities. And I really appreciated Galavant Society and the way that they curated the trip for that, because we stayed in some of the most beautiful hotels I've ever seen. But then you're also on the bus ride driving through rural India and you're seeing from the side of the road, they're like, oh, this is someone's wedding. This is somebody's farm. This is, and you're just able to kind of take it all in. And I think that that's really remarkable. And I think the way that they had Sandeep, the tour guide, explaining all of that to us and was very candid about explaining it to us was really helpful because it added a lot of richness to the trip that I don't know I would have gotten had I been on my own for 14 days or had I gone to India on my own in general. But having someone who loves their country, is proud of their country, is happy to share about their country and happy to answer questions, I think, again, when you group travel or you learn anything in a group, the value that you can get from socially learning from one another is immeasurable. Like it's so important. Jaipur ends on day like 7 to 9-ish. We've shopped, we've eaten, we are ready to go to the final stop, which was Agra. And Agra is really that undescribable kind of mental snapshot, remember for the rest of your life kind of place because of the Taj Mahal. And the Taj Mahal was almost kind of like the grand finale of the trip. We got there, we got to go right to a garden outside of the Taj Mahal and really see it at sunset, wake up the next morning, go at 5:30 in the morning, see it. And it's so impressive from a construction and architecture standpoint, but it's also so impressive from just like a cultural impact. And I loved taking videos of people taking videos of the Taj Mahal. Like I'm such a creeper in that way, was like really enjoying all of the places in which you could see just humans being humans and what brought them there. And you're remembering that you're like halfway around the world, you're as far away from home as you could possibly be. And you're in front of this thing that really has just kind of captured the minds and the attention of people for centuries, is very freaking cool. So we spent a lot of time on our Taj Mahal tour and then we got to kind of relax and recoup before we left, which was so sad. The last kind of moment of brand impact was definitely the farewell dinner. So the last night in Agra, we had this beautiful curated outdoor dinner at the hotel. And the day before, Allie kind of assigns everyone a love note. So you get someone on the trip that you write a love note to, and you get to kind of explain to them like what you valued out of spending time with them over those 14 days. And we designed these love notes to be very like well branded, obviously, because it's going to be something that people keep. But I think it's a great way to kind of end with a capstone of the whole trip. So people get assigned to different people within the group, and then you read your love note aloud over the dinner. And to see people who started as strangers and as good friends, and like all of us have this group text together and follow each other on social media and stay plugged in, I think is part of the magic of what Galavant Society is really providing here. So I couldn't, with a bigger smile on my face, recommend it more. So if you were curious about a Galavant Society trip, I would absolutely definitely recommend. If you, for some reason, missed the reels, post stories, etc., that I've shared on my socials, please go check those out. And again, maybe this is inspiring you or giving you permission to break from your routine and go try something new, go be somewhere new, go experience a culture that's different than yours. You will be a better person for it. And the other note is to definitely bring a sketchbook with you, because you'll have so much fun doing that. By the end of the trip, I'd created 2 postcards, one for our tour guide of his favorite monument, which was the Taj Mahal that we all signed on the back. And then secondly, I created a postcard where I like drew everyone from the group in one of the locations and got to share that with everyone. And that was also so much fun. So like I said, stomach is full, camera roll is full, tired, but definitely inspired with everything that I was able to capture on my trip with Galavant Society. And believe me, my new goal is to go on at least 1 trip a year with Galavant Society. So you'll be seeing a lot more of these. But thanks so much for listening. I know this was a long episode. I wanted to just kind of really recap it while it was still fresh, share it with you, explain some of the choices that we made from a branding side to really carry that experience through. And I can say with full confidence, damn, I'm pretty good at my job. Because the fact that I was able to capture as much of the essence of the brand without having gone on the trip, I think is pretty cool. But it was also very affirming to see that the trip was as high quality as I thought it would be. Like to see it actually, actually defy my expectations, exceed my expectations in a way that, okay, what we designed here with the magazine, with the website, with the landing page, with the brand is the experience and then some, right? And to have that alignment and to have that all-encompassing like brand world exist where it didn't before for Ali and for Linda, like that's really satisfying. And I think being able to see it in person and see it as the user, as the gal on the trip was a super, super useful experience. So maybe also permission to, if you're creative, like ask to tag along, see what your clients are up to, see what they do best, see them in their element. And I can tell you right now, I've got like a laundry list of 1,000,005 things that I want to suggest to Ali to do for future trips now. So all that to say, if you're thinking of going on a Galavant Society trip, please do. We will make sure that all of that is linked in the show notes for you, and we will catch you next time. But like I said, I'd be remiss to not recap it for you guys after sharing so much on social and being so excited to go on this trip. So I hope you found this episode useful. See you later. Bye.